How's it going? Sorry, I was just doing a retuck. I'm not like getting undressed or anything. These silk shirts just do not stay tucked in at all. Have a good one. All right. All right. Thank you for joining us on our live stream here. Of course, we are on kcntv.com. We're on 6 News. We're on the 6 Plus app. We are everywhere where you can find 6 News content because we are seeing some severe weather already this afternoon developing across central Texas. You can see on your screen right now we're seeing most of our storms in our northern counties. Going to give it just a couple more minutes and then we're going to go through an update on what is happening here. I do want to make sure that a few more people have a chance to join. And of course, since we are live on Facebook Live, if you're joining us on the 6 News KCEN-TV Facebook page, feel free to ask any questions about the weather, about what's going on, about what we're expecting for this evening as well. Since this is the spring that won't end, some of our storms are already severe. Taking a look at Hill County, taking a look at Navarro County too. Going to step over here, going to turn on my monitor real quick so I can see what's going on. A little bit of TV magic for you. Of course, the wall that I'm looking at is completely green, so I rely on these side monitors to know what's going on. So, a couple things. We have one storm here up now in Hill County moving towards I-35. This is moving to the northeast. This is actually going to slide likely up into Johnson County and into Ellis County here over the next several minutes. But first, it has to cross I-35, and it will do so in northern Hill County. The other storm that we're looking at with a severe thunderstorm warning currently is in Navarro County. This one's moving just a little bit more to the southeast. So if you joined us yesterday, we talked about right-moving storms. When these storms get very strong, they can have a tendency to get, detached from that upper-level flow and make that right turn. That's what we're seeing with this storm. It is moving east-southeast now. We'll be moving through Corsicana here over the next several minutes. And then the third storm that we're dealing with right now is not severe at the moment. However, it is moving southeast, another right-moving storm. We had this complex of storms that developed, and now that one storm is now moving off to the southeast towards Waco. So what I'm going to do now, step over here to my wall computer that I have so that I can stay on screen while I'm making adjustments. And we're going to talk about what direction these storms are moving. All right, so while I'm getting logged in, these two severe thunderstorm warnings, this one lasts until 4:15. I believe they're both in effect basically till about 4:30 for these two storms. Of course, that is how long these thunderstorm warnings last. Of course, we could see more issued downstream, but as they do that, obviously this storm is going to move across the Trinity River into East Texas. This one will move back up into DFW. So at that point, they will be outside of our purview. But of course, if you have friends and family in the Tyler area, down towards Palestine and Henderson, Anderson counties, of course, that's where this storm is moving. If you have friends and family up in Johnson County, that's where this storm is heading. Not tornadic, so that's the one thing. Obviously, last night we had the one cell that was tornadic, moved all the way across central Texas. These are not showing those signs. However, they are showing signs of potentially large hail and straight line wind gusts that could be damaging. All right, so we're all logged in over here. Okay, so let's zoom in first on our Hill County storm. That's the one that has been kind of moving ever since it started well back south of Meridian, moved towards Meridian, now up towards Blum. We saw it near Cranfill's Gap a little bit earlier. Inside this storm, the hail core, it's been up and down. Right now, it's not the strongest that we've seen it. However, when you see these dark blue colors, so there you go, 4:30 is how long this particular warning is in effect until. 1.3. So this is between a quarter and a ping pong ball. So we're going to call this $half sized hail. And now moving towards the highway there, just to the east of Blum. Let's zoom in just a little bit here on this storm. You can see that is Highway 171 as it moves up out of Hill County and up into Johnson County. So again, 1.3. So again, $half sized hail possible with this storm as it moves across 171. We'll move across 81 next, and then it'll move across I-35 west as it continues its track off to the northeast. The other storm that we're going to take a closer look at, and again, not seeing anything tornadic, not seeing any thing like that with these storms just yet. Of course, if that changes, we'll of course update you. But this storm over here in Navarro County, possibly just a little bit stronger than the other storm, although the hail core looks significantly less impressive on this scan. Only seeing hail right now in the core of the storm up to about 7/10 of an inch, so less than a quarter. We'll call it nickel-sized hail there right along Texas 22 as it moves towards Corsicana. And this storm should move right through Corsicana. So if you're in Corsicana yourself, heading towards Corsicana, or you have friends and family in Corsicana, some decent-sized hail. It's not the largest hail we've seen this week, but again, enough that it could do some damage, leave some dents, and of course would be painful if it fell on you, of course. So definitely want to make sure that people in Corsicana are aware that there is a hail core moving your direction here over the next few minutes. In fact, these storms moving pretty quickly, about 35 miles per hour. Remember last night, if you were with us during our tornado coverage last night, that storm was only moving at about 15 miles per hour. So a very slow moving storm, and definitely caused a lot of damage and a lot of concern over the course of really about 3.5 hours because it was moving so slow. So here's what we're looking at right now. You can see the storm that was moving towards El Mott and down towards Waco. Let it come back again. This is a 6-hour loop. I can change that here in just a second. But you can see this storm does make that right move off of the parent storm. Really falling apart, though, as it gets towards El Mott there. So what's happening today is we have a dry line set up to the west. All these storms are going to fire along that boundary. And as they we're going to watch the possibility that they could turn strong to severe on us throughout the rest of the evening. So this is really just the beginning of the party. These are the party guests that show up a little bit early. We're expecting most of the activity really to develop right around dinner time. You know, that 5, 6, 7 o'clock time frame, and really stay with us through the better part of the evening. We're looking at some model forecasts that are showing the potential of these storms sticking around until 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight. So we have a situation tonight where this could be ongoing for a while. You can see that boundary at the surface. So again, you have the southeasterly flow off the Gulf. You have that westerly flow behind the dry line. You can really see where it's setting up here. So these storms firing out ahead of that boundary. Of course, there's better lift. There's always going to be better lift where you have two air masses coming together, these boundary lines. And so that's where we're expecting the stronger storms to develop. Out ahead, we still have what we call that capped atmosphere. We have that layer of warm air up in the mid-levels that kind of staves off some of that severe weather. So what's happening, these storms out ahead, they're kind of developing elevated above that cap. So they're not going to be as strong. They're not going to be as dangerous. However, we do have the severe thunderstorm warnings because they are still capable of producing that hail and potentially producing those outflow winds too. So those are the two things we're watching with these storms. As this dry line moves in, it's going to provide that lift, and these are the storms that, as we head through the evening, could be even stronger over the next few hours. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Just a few storms across our northern counties, and in fact, most of them. This storm about to move into Johnson County. This storm moving towards Corsicana. Once it moves off towards the Trinity River, that'll be into East Texas. This storm will be into DFW. So only a little bit longer with these storms, but the storms again that are firing along that boundary line to our west, those are the ones we're going to continue to watch this evening. In fact, let's take a look at our forecast model, and we can see just exactly what we're expecting here over the rest of the evening. Let me make some edits to this model real quick. So you're seeing a couple things right now. We're talking about severe weather coverage, but you're also kind of seeing my day-to-day routine here of kind of editing these models, changing them up a little bit, and seeing what is going to work best. All right, so this model is going to start off today at 5 p.m. and it's going to run through Saturday. So here's what we're watching. There's that dry line. You can really see those storms developing on that boundary here as we head towards 6, 7 o'clock out west. Moving towards I-35, they're 8, 9 o'clock through 10:30. And this is that model I was talking about that kept storms in the area really until 10, 11, 12 a.m. before everything does kind of finally move off. So I know you're looking at this and you're thinking, don't you say most storms usually end as we head towards those overnight hours? Well, yes. But as long as there's a source of lift, in this case that surface boundary that we were talking about, that dry line, that will keep that lift going into the evening and actually kind of circumvent what we usually see. So anytime we see anything mechanical, whether it's a cold front or a dry line or anything, any sort of surface boundary that comes in, yeah, it's nighttime. But if you think about it, 10 o'clock, it's still going to be humid. It's still going to be warm. By 10, we'll probably still be in the 80s. And as long as you have that source of lift moving in from the west, yeah, it's going to give us a way to get those storms started. The two things I always say, and I will always want to continue to say when we look at forecast models, is don't look at the exact locations. Could we see storms in Temple? Could we see storms down towards Salado? Absolutely, yes. Will we see storms again in Corsicana? Possibly. We absolutely can. But with these models, when I show them to you, I want to show you general trends and I want to show you timing. Timing is very important here because we need to know when to be prepared. You should be prepared. And any day we have a weather-aware situation, you should be prepared all day. But again, these models will give you an idea. And right now we're looking at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock based on this particular forecast model. Again, don't look at general exact locations. So if you're down in Bruceville, Eddy, if you're down in let's say McGregor, areas like that, yes, this storm is very close to you. Could this storm that this forecast model is picking up on just not materialize at all? Absolutely. Could it materialize closer to Waco? Yes, it could. So again, don't use these models as the gospel. Use them as a general idea of timing and trends here. So we expect, again, everything to kind of start to boil up here, 6, 7 o'clock. We're already seeing it up in DFW. This forecast model might even be an hour behind. That's why I say we need to be weather aware all afternoon, all evening. But again, it does move out there as we head towards the overnight hours. And as we head towards your Saturday, things are looking a little bit better on Saturday. If we can get through today, we might get a pop-up thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon. It could be strong. But the chances are looking less and less likely for Saturday, less and less likely for Sunday before then we bring general rain chances back into the forecast by Monday. We just need to get through today. The problem with this weekend, I'll tell you this right now, is it's going to be hot. It is absolutely going to be hot. It's going to be in the low to mid 90s, and those heat index values are going to feel like they are in the triple digits. So here's your severe weather outlook for tomorrow. This is for your Saturday. There is a chance for severe weather well off to the west, that level 2 out of 5 slight risk, a 1 out of 5 for some of our western counties. So again, tomorrow afternoon, we could get a passing chance for a shower or a thunderstorm as we get towards the heat of the day tomorrow afternoon. The chances of them being severe are much lower than they've been the last couple of days. Today we're under an enhanced risk. In fact, I can change this. In fact, the reason I pulled this up was so I could change it to today. And again, this is interesting. If you're following us on our live stream, you're seeing some behind the scenes action here because this is how I get ready for work. And obviously when we have the weather moving in, sometimes I've got to do these things while we're already on air, or at least while we're on the stream. So I'm going to change this. This is currently for tomorrow. I'm going to change this to today so you can see what our chances look like. And you're already seeing some severe weather up in parts of Bosque and Hill County, but we've got that chance all the way as far south as Killeen and Temple. Is today going to be as high of a tornado threat as we saw yesterday? Probably not. Could we see a tornado? Absolutely. Anytime we have severe weather, if we've got enough wind shear, we've got enough instability in the atmosphere, we can absolutely get a brief spin up. Yesterday we did not get a brief spin up. Yesterday we got a long-tracked tornadic storm that moved all the way from Temple all the way up towards Bruceville, Eddy. We saw some damage to the east of Bruceville, Eddy. Moved through Chilton, moved through Marlin, moved down south into Robertson County, and moved into Marquay up towards Jewett. So it was that long, and in that same storm started in Temple as a rainstorm. I was telling people here as they were getting prepared to leave for the day at 5 o'clock yesterday that, this is just a rainstorm. It'll be out of Temple in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And it was. It was just rain. It was out of Temple in 15 to 20 minutes. As it continued to shift north along I-35, it started growing in intensity. And if you watched 6 News at 5 yesterday, I said I was starting to watch that storm as it was showing signs of growing. Well, it kept growing, and as it got to Bruceville, Eddy, it started rotating, dropped that funnel cloud potential tornado there, not potential, it's been confirmed, NEF1 tornado east of Bruceville, Eddy, as the storm moved from McLennan down into Falls County, moved towards Marlin, impacted the south side of Marlin, potential tornado there, and of course lots of rain flooding in Marlin yesterday afternoon, moved south. If you were in Reagan, got very nearly impacted. We moved down towards Bald Prairie, and then it moved east. It kept moving east into parts of, again, Marquette, Jewett. So a very long track system that if we were to really track this out from Temple up through Bruce Valetti, you're talking 10 to 15 miles over towards Marlin, another 15 or 20 miles. So we're up to, about 40, 45 miles, and then down towards Jewett. I mean, that storm was continuing and showed signs of rotation for the better part of probably about 100 miles. And so when we say long track storms, that's what we're talking about. So here's our severe weather outlook for today. I know it says tomorrow. I'm still in the process of editing it for the show tonight. Now it says today. Easy peasy. We're not going to change this. These threats, whenever you see this in one of my graphics, when it says threats, large hail, strong wind, this is always going to be an order of likelihood. So the most likely thing we're expecting today, most likely thing, if you've lived in Texas long, our tornadoes are fewer and far between. I know we've had 2 this week already, but that's fairly uncommon. When we talk about severe weather in Texas, large hail is always going to be the biggest threat. And we've seen some very large hail this week and last week. Strong winds, that's going to be your secondary threat. And again, these strong winds come from those outflows that come out of these storms, that sinking air, it hits the ground, spreads out in all directions at a very quick rate of speed, sometimes 50 to 60 miles per hour. And then the isolated tornado threat. I usually put isolated tornado because we never have a huge tornado outbreak possibility. We get them sometimes. They're very unlikely, so whenever we have a tornado threat with these severe storms, I'm always going to put an isolated threat on there because, again, we're not going to see them. And yesterday, despite the fact that, yes, that storm traveled 100 miles, it was one storm. In fact, the storm that moved through Temple on Wednesday night produced 2 tornadoes. The first one traveled a little less than 3 miles, and then the second one traveled just a little bit more than 2 miles. So, again, isolated tornado threat. And if you're impacted by one, you don't care how many tornadoes there are because they are devastating, absolutely. I still haven't been able to drive down West Adams because of traffic and because I need to get to work in a timely fashion. So I have not been using Adams, but I know the devastation there, and I know the devastation across parts of Bruce Valetti, through Heidenheimer from Wednesday evening. So whether it's isolated or not, if your life is impacted by a tornado, it doesn't really matter. So I am stepping off screen just so I can come look at the comments to see if there have been any questions thus far, because obviously I want to make sure I answer them if there are. All right. Is Temple going to be hit again? The answer to your question is it definitely could. These storms, when we have these scattered storm situations, they can pop up anywhere along that boundary line. So we're going to keep the possibility that Temple could be impacted by storms again tonight. Let's see. Yeah, I agree with Jacob. Temple can't take another hit. I 100% agree with you. Little town of Temple not in the path again. Yeah, again, most of the I-35 corridor is in the path. It's going to depend where these scattered storms pop up. When it would be in Groesbeck. Again, we're looking at that 7 to 8, and obviously Groesbeck's a little bit further east, so I'm going to be looking probably 8 or 9 based on what our models are showing right now. Yep, Danny, still no power, yeah. So many places in Temple still without power, and across central Texas in general as well. I know I have seen the crews are hard at work on the transmission lines since Wednesday, and I know they have got a lot of work. And unfortunately, these the continued storms are not going to make their work any easier, unfortunately. Let's see. All right. Sheila, if I haven't mentioned it in the past, I'm going to mention it now. Your positivity and just your sense of community is second to none. And that is much needed in times like this. April, great advice to people that don't have a generator. A gas-powered generator it can be a lifesaver in these situations. Lilu, yeah, as soon as I'm done going over Facebook questions, I'm going to go right back to what I was doing. If you're in Moody, so for Angelica, for Moody, there is a storm that is heading through McLennan County right now. It is dissipating, but you might get rain early on. However, the better time for the severe weather is going to be in that 7 to 8 time frame. But yeah, as soon as I'm done going over the Facebook questions, I will jump back on and I will go back through the forecast model. Looking at earlier storms, yeah, we have some earlier storms that I'm going to jump on again here in just as soon as I walk back to the screen. Hopefully it's not going overnight to college for Rob. Yeah, unfortunately, I think all of us are sort of under the gun for the storms today. Okay. Well, I definitely try. Lulu, I've gotten some city names absolutely wrong in the last few weeks. Just a quick behind the curtains. I have been in Central Texas for about 14 months now. I think I'm getting most of the city names, but some of them still give me some trouble. I'm not going to lie to you. So, all right. So, for everybody asking for that general timing again. So for this is the forecast model I use most often. It's called the HRRR. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this particular model's output, and I'm going to show you another one's, and we're going to talk about which one I think is more likely. The problem with what we're looking at here is this one did not pick up on the early storms this afternoon. So that concerns me a little bit. Let me change a couple of settings real quick. I'm going to run through this. We're going to change this to a shorter range model, and the reason I'm doing that is because the shorter range models tend to pick up on things a little bit better because they're actually updated every single hour. And you can see there, it's actually picking up on a storm right around 5 o'clock from Gatesville to Waco. So again, 6 o'clock, we get some initiation along that boundary out west. Through 7 o'clock, it stays mainly to the west before moving into the area. And I got to tell you, there's been some improvement just in the last few model runs, and it actually pushes the storms just a little bit later into the evening. But as far as what you're seeing here, again, this particular forecast model shows a lot of intense storms in that 9, 10, 11 o'clock time frame. I'm still going to suggest that we're on our guard as early as dinner time, 6, 7 o'clock. We could see those storms initiate. And this model, what I was going to say earlier is the last couple of days, it's been maybe an hour behind the initiation. It's been having a little bit of trouble catching the speed of some of these frontal systems that are coming through. And so because of that, I would say be prepared that these storms could move through the I-35 corridor. And when I say the I-35 corridor, I mean anywhere from Waco, Hillsboro, down to Waco, down to Temple, as early as 7 o'clock and as late into the evening as 11 p.m. potentially. If you're in the Brazos Valley, you're going to be on the, obviously, since these storms are moving from southwest or from northwest to southeast, you're going to be a little bit in the later end of that time frame, 10, 11 o'clock, perhaps even on towards midnight. So I promised you I'd show you 2 model outlooks, but I did want to go back to what's happening right now because this storm in Hill County is crossing I-35 as we speak. This storm in Corsicana has gone over Corsicana. They both look like they have de-intensified. They have definitely diminished in the last 15 minutes since I've been talking, which is great news. And I knew these early storms were going to have some trouble. They don't have the lift that boundary out to our west can provide. So these are all developing above the cap. Remember, we talk about the cap occasionally. It's that warm layer of air in the mid-levels at about, couple, 3 or 4 or 5,000 feet. What happens is these storms can't get past there. But they develop above the cap, they're not going to be as strong, but they can still drop hail, of course. So this storm is moving into Johnson County and Ellis County. Still has a hail core on it. It's moving over I-35. The hail core, though, is massively diminished, and it is already in Johnson County. 1-inch hail there for parts of southern Johnson County. So if you know anybody there right along the county line that lives right along 35W, that's where they're seeing the hail right now. Our other storm in Navarro County, again, the hail core crossing over I-45. It has intensified since it crossed I-45. Before it was about 7/10 of an inch. Now it's down to just a little over, or it's up to a little over an inch. So this is severe criteria here. 1-inch hail would be severe, and that's what they're seeing just to the southeast of Corsicana. So those are the 2 storms that we're worried about right now. I mentioned earlier about Moody. We did have that storm that was heading down towards I-35 and down towards Waco, down towards Crawford in that area. It has since diminished and fallen off the radar completely. New storm, though, developing just to the southwest of Hillsborough. That is not severe. That just looks to be rain right now. And as we take a look inside of it, I can almost guarantee it's just rain. In fact, it is just rain. Put this all in motion. Most everything's moving east. That storm that's developing just south of Hillsborough, again, a little too early to tell. We did have a little bit of right hand, that southeast motion in this general location earlier, but a little too earlier in the scans to really know, but it looks like it is kind of caught up in that upper level flow, taking it to the northeast, so a little bit more rain potentially here in the next few minutes for Hillsborough. Everything here is moving at about 35 miles per hour, so moving quickly, which is what we need, because anything that's dropping rain out of the sky right now needs to move quick, because there are a lot of areas across central Texas that can't handle any more rain right now. So if you're going to get rain, the preference is, of course, that it moves through as quick as possible at this point. So I want to zoom out here and take a look out to the west. You can see the boundary developing, especially on our satellite where the clouds are. Here's that drier air coming in from the west. Here's that more humid air off the Gulf. So these are what we call air masses. This is a more humid air mass. This is going to be a drier air mass. A little bit of science moment for you. Humid air is less dense than dry air. So whenever we're outside and we can't breathe because it's humid, and everybody says, well, the air is so thick. It's actually thinner than dry air. That's actually why it's a little harder to breathe. You're not getting as much oxygen with each breath you pull in. It's also why, for my baseball fans out there, that's why in the old ballpark in Arlington, when it was open, that's why the home runs flew out a little bit better, because you had the jet stream. You also had warm, humid air in the summertime, which allowed the ball to travel a little bit further as well. Similar thing in Denver. It has nothing to do with the humidity and the dryness. It has everything to do with the fact that Denver is a mile high and there's literally less air there because it's higher up. So a little science moment for you. But anyway, back to the weather. So here's that boundary we've been talking about, that dry line draped over basically a buoy down to Mineral Wells line. And you can see a little bit more action in the clouds there as you head on towards west of Stephenville and as you head into parts of our Colorado River counties there. But that dry line shouldn't make it all the way here. It should stay a little bit to our west. It might move into parts of central Texas, but as it does so, these storms will develop along that dry line. They get caught up in the upper level flow, and what happens is everything carries it to the east. So yeah, while we may not get this dry line coming through, which is unfortunate because we definitely need a break from the humidity, we're not going to get it this weekend, unfortunately. We are dealing with a situation where these storms are going to develop on that line and move off to the east-northeast. So these storms developed out ahead of the boundary. The boundary is still back here. If I can say boundary one more time, I'm sure somebody wins $10 or something. But that's what we're dealing with right now. These are elevated storms. That's why they haven't been as strong as possible. These storms that are developing along the dry line will be a little bit stronger. Those are the ones we're watching here for this evening. So I promised you another forecast model, and I got talking about baseball and things, so my apologies. Let me find my other forecast model. So we have two what we call short-range, high-resolution models. Why is that important? Well, it's important because anything that goes long-range, so you've seen these models, you may be on social media, you see some of these people that post models and say, here's what things are going to look like 16 days from now. Okay, those are long-range models, and the problem with those is they have low resolution. If you draw a box, right? Some of those boxes that they're drawing they're 25 miles wide. So you're not going to be able to see what's happening in pinpoint locations. With these models, the short range models, they're high resolution. So the boxes that we draw are only, 3 or 4 miles wide. So you get much more accurate, detailed information. Think about a TV that has, old-timey TV was, 480 pixels across nowadays. TV's a 1080p television is 1,000 pixels across, and then a 4K television is 4,000 pixels across. So think about this. An old 480 pixel television is not going to look as good and is not going to give you as detailed information as a 4,000 pixel television. So it's the same idea. So here we go. This model does pick up on a little bit of those storms, but again, notice what time it is. Notice the time on the clock here. It says 5 o'clock. We know for a fact these storms built up right around 3 o'clock. So what's happening is this model is saying, all right, as that boundary gets closer, that's where we're going to get storm initiation. Well, we already got it today. So that's a little bit of behind, about an hour behind. 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And so this is why we always give you these general time frames. We always say if you're going to prepare for the storms, prepare from 7 to 11 tonight. Prepare basically throughout the evening. Dinner time through the late night, we have a chance to see those storms develop. Our last forecast model said that, well, these storms aren't going to get here till 9 or 10 o'clock. This one's saying 7 o'clock. I think I tend to agree more with saying that storm development along I-35. So if you're along I-35, expect it more in the neighborhood of 7 or 8 o'clock. And then again, you see here more development potential around 11. A lot of these storms on this model are staying to the north. You saw our last model, and I think with these two models, the first one I showed you, I think I trust it a little bit better. Shows that more widespread activity. I don't know if I trust the timing as much, but I trust the actual activity it's showing us. So I would say anywhere from 7 to 11, and this one's staying north too. You know, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get phone calls from folks in Waco. I don't mean for this to sound hateful, but if it stays north, you know, the folks in Temple are still trying to clean up. So staying away from Temple would be great. But again, if you are basically from a Bell County, Salado up through Hillsborough, that's going to be the best area to see storms tonight. That's going to be the most likely area to see storms tonight. And again, it's going to move through the I-35 corridor probably around 7 or 8, I would say. And then we have a chance to see development lasting with us basically until midnight. So from 7 to midnight, that's the time frame that we need to be weather aware. This is going to be a little bit of a longer event because we have that surface boundary closer to the area. The last storms that we've been seeing that come off the dry line, that dry line's out in West Texas. They move here in a single wave, they're done. If that dry line is right knocking on our door, we're going to have the chance to see that development for a few hours. So anywhere between 7 and about 11. And the further east you go, obviously the later we're talking. I know this says it's going to go through midnight 1 a.m. If you're in the Brazos Valley, be prepared that these storms could kick off at 10, 11 o'clock. So anywhere from Milam and Robertson southeast, 10, 11, through the late night hours is going to be the time frame that I'm going to give you there. So again, along the I-35 corridor, probably 7 to 10, 7 to 11, Brazos Valley, 11 p.m. on. That's going to be the time frame. So let me check the questions again. In fact, I'm going to pull up Facebook over here. So I don't know that I can. I'm going to come over here real quick. All right, so let's look again at our Facebook questions. When should we anticipate the storms wrapping up tonight? Again, it kind of depends, Allie, where you are. If you're along I-35, so let's say Waco, McGregor, Bruce Folletti, Troy, Temple, Salado, you're going to see things pop up probably in that 7 to 11 time frame, I would say is the best. Everything should be wrapped up by about 11. If you're in the Brazos Valley, 11 p.m. through the very, very early morning hours. Still can't find a Rob, yeah, no, absolutely. Parking garages are hard to come by right now. Time will hit Little River. Again, I would say if you're near Temple, which Little River is somewhat near Temple, likely going to be in that 8 or 9 o'clock time frame. For Cove, maybe a little bit earlier, 7:30, 6:30, 7 o'clock. But again, lasting through, the potential is going to last through that 10 or 11 o'clock time frame. And as far as severity, this one is going to be mainly a hail threat. Can't rule out, again, those spin-up tornadoes, but more likely a hail threat tonight than what we saw yesterday. What are the odds of storms along the I-35 before 7? Before 7, so we're seeing some storms developing right now. I think the odds are low as far as before 7. The problem is the joke I always make is, and it's not really a joke, unfortunately, is storms don't make appointments, unfortunately. So we can say 7, our models can all show 7, and that boundary line speeds up at all, or we get an earlier initiation. It can happen. So I would say low, but not impossible. I think 7 o'clock is probably going to be that best time frame, 7 to 8. Hi, Madison. Thank you for me. No problem, Bonnie. It's why I do what I do. Yeah. I'm glad to hear your animals are okay, Cassie, for sure. My apologies for the property, and I hope you get to feeling better. Temple, like I said, we have a chance there, 7, 8, and 9 o'clock. Raining in Hillsboro, yep. So that was that little storm we were just looking at just a minute ago. Still no electricity in West Temple, I know. I haven't been in contact with Encore or anything else. I know they are probably prioritizing some areas or doing basically triage care with the electricity, trying to get it back in maybe the hardest hit areas. I can't say for certain. I'd be spitballing, but hopefully we can get that going here in the next weekend at least. But I think some of the recovery and electricity and for sure Spectrum Internet, I know they've been having some trouble getting things back online as well. So yeah, hopefully with some breaks in the weather for this weekend, they can get some good solid work done. That's my hope. Again, just spitballing here. I don't work for the electricity company, unfortunately, but I can make somewhat educated guesses, I suppose. All right, so again, here's your severe weather outlook for the rest of the evening. If you're up in near Meridian and Hillsboro, you've already seen some hail. Some of it was of the severe variety, 1 inch or greater, but a lot of it was not. And that is good, but we are keeping that threat there. Mentioned earlier that the best, most likely areas for severe weather are going to be aligned basically from Salado up through Hillsboro and west. But that does not preclude the rest of us from seeing that severe weather as well, level 2 out of 5. When we do these, and I was telling the newsroom earlier, when we do these severe weather outlooks, just because you're in the orange zone does not mean you're going to get necessarily worse weather than the folks in the yellow zones. It just means there is a higher likelihood in this bullseye of seeing severe weather. You might get the exact same storm they got in Comanche, you just had a more heightened likelihood of seeing those storms. So that's what we're dealing with there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the radar back up. I'm going to work on a few things, and then I will be back in a few minutes with a couple of updates. And of course, here in about 40 minutes, we will be coming to you live with 6 News at 5. Of course, if anything breaks, if anything develops, I'll be back on sooner than that. But for now, just know that we'll be back with you at the very least in about 39 minutes on 6 News at 5. Let this run. And of course, the stream's going to keep going, so if you have a question, a burning question, a pertinent question that you need answered, I will have Facebook pulled up. I'm just going to be working on another computer, getting ready for the 5 o'clock show. So there you go. One quick thing to note on the what you're seeing on your imagery here is, so you just saw me put these fronts on this as we prepare again for the show here. This cold front is unfortunately, and I wish I had better news in this regard, it is not going to affect our temperatures at all. It is going to stall out, it's going to wash out, and then it's going to lift back to the north, so we're going to be stuck in that warm, humid sector for a while. This yellow box, I realize I never actually talked about the yellow box, that's a severe thunderstorm watch. Remember, so the little polygonal boxes that we draw, those are the warnings, those are for individual storms. This watch just means the conditions are ripe, obviously, when we have the chance for severe weather as we head through the rest of the evening. So whenever we're in a watch, again, a watch basically means you need to be weather aware for the foreseeable future. Usually these are issued 4, 5, 6 hours in advance. And a severe thunderstorm warning means something is happening imminently and you need to take precautions immediately. Usually with a severe thunderstorm warning, unless it has that tornado warning designation, there's likely not a tornado happening. Could be. There are absolutely times when our radar misses a signature or something and we don't necessarily get that warning out in time. I believe a similar thing happened near Bruceville Eddy last night. I don't believe we had a warning on that storm when it produced that tornado. As a matter of fact, it happened very quickly. We got that tornado warning there, though, as it moved into Falls County. As far as watch versus warning, in a typical case, a severe thunderstorm warning indicates that there is a hail and a wind threat. It means you should not be outdoors, and it means if your car is not under an awning or in a parking garage or in your own garage, it should probably be there because the hail is incoming. And whenever we draw these, and I never explained this well enough, I don't think, is when we draw these, the boxes are going to go from the storm and then in the general direction that storm is traveling. You can see that new severe thunderstorm warning was just issued. So these are issued on the fly. As soon as a storm is about to move into a new area, you can see the old warning extended through the Trinity River. The new warning now extends into, you'll have to forgive me, I believe that's Henderson County. I think that's Henderson County. The new warning was extended into Henderson County. Yeah, I believe Anderson County is Palestine. So yeah, as it extends into, and Anderson County is Athens, I believe, is the county seat. So as that storm crosses the Trinity River, a new warning had to be issued to cover the new area that it's moving into. Why do we do that? Well, because if we issue a 3-hour warning on a severe thunderstorm warning, and let's say it extends all the way up into, let's say, Hunt County here, well, what if that storm dissipates somewhere around Rockwall, right? So what's going to happen is you're now going to have a severe thunderstorm warning. You've alerted people in this area in Hunt County that something could be happening and then nothing happens. And so that's why we do these 30 to 45 minutes to an hour. We only let them go for that long, and then the determination is made, hey, should we extend it? Well, if it doesn't dissipate, then yes. If it does dissipate, you usually will see those warnings canceled. So just a little watch versus warning information for you. Watches mean be prepared. Warnings mean something's happening. So that's the difference. The old joke is the taco watch versus the taco warning. A taco watch means there's tortilla shells and beef and cheese and lettuce, and it's all ready and prepared and ready to go. Whereas a taco warning means a taco has been made, it's ready to eat. So we always use that analogy. I just like saying that a watch means be prepared, and a warning means something's happening as we speak. So just a little information there. You can notice, though, most of everything has moved out of central Texas. This storm is now in Ellis County. Like I said, the storm in Navarro County is just about ready to move into Henderson County. And as it does so, if you have family, friends, folks living near Athens or that general region, just let them know, hey, there is a storm headed your way that could produce hail and gusty winds at this time. So that's what's going on. I'm going to step off. I'm going to continue preparing for the show because right now we don't have anything across central Texas really to talk about right now. So certainly that will not be the case here as we head through the next several hours, as you can already see storms developing along that cold front. And I know, cold front, I wish it was going to affect our temperatures, but it simply is not. It's not going to make it through central Texas. It's not going to stay. It's not going to have the desired effect here. We're still going to be hot and humid into the weekend. That's something we'll be talking about during the show as well, so stay tuned.
Okay.
Be asking for a mic check anytime.
I'm at Lake. Hi. Yeah, guys, I'm at Lake Belton High School, where those impacted by the tornado can stop by this parking lot and grab some water, bags of ice, and meals ready to eat. Now, okay, looks good and sounds good.
You made it.
Yeah!
The dates go until May 31st of this month. It's like anything from May 31st of this month to last year is fair game. So, too much. It's like, if you're a member, he's got to grab his IFB. Do you need me to keep talking? But anyways, I just thought you should know, because you might want to enter like weathercast. And it's at lonestaremmys.com.